Welcome back to Rehabilitation Revelations World. My name's Chase.
And I'm Christopher. Look, today, guys, we got a very special guy to me, probably to a lot of y'all out there as well, Mr. Jeff Hefner, man. I've known this guy for 15 years. I know he's been through a lot, and he's overcame a lot. And I think it was definitely important to, I know, Chase and myself to really kind of get him out here to kind of tell his story and everything. But really just kind of go into, where you started, where you're at, and how you got there, bud.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I appreciate these fellows having me. Um, Born and raised in Hickory, North Carolina. Um, grew up grew up with a godly mother and a godly father. Um, and grew up actually in private school. I was a very soft kid, very tenderhearted. Grew up in private school until about I think it was about fifth grade. Yeah, then switched over to public school in middle school. Um, and there was things that happened along my life that showed I had a tender heart, and I felt I had a tender heart and knew I had a tender heart. Um, and then after middle school, our father uh, had a bad drinking bout, and got really mad. And at this time, I had three adopted brothers as well. He had a bad drinking bout, and it's what separated my family. It's a very long story. He pulled a gun out and fired some shots and things like that, and our family broke apart. Um, and that really affected me. So then it was, my father was gone, and it was me, my three adopted brothers, and my mother. Shortly after that, it was just me, one of my brothers, and my mother, because two of my other brothers went back into the system. So, that was a time in my life where I really started hardening up, I guess you could say. Um, I was going freshman year of high school. I played basketball all my life, and basketball was my outlet. I wasn't a very good player. I just played really hard and knew that that was what was going to get me out of the situation I was in at the time, which at that time wasn't a horrible situation. Like, we didn't have a lot of money. My mother, she worked as hard as she could, but she was trying to raise two boys, and we didn't have a ton of money, but we made it, and she did amazing. And my mother is amazing, and thank God for her prayers and everything that she's poured into me. Because without that, I wouldn't be here. But long story short, um, I started I started using alcohol and marijuana my freshman year, um, and that opened up a door.
Freshman year in high school or college?
Freshman year of high school.
I got you.
So that opened up the door. When I say using, I may have done it twice, and then I was on to cocaine. So my junior year of high school was when I was using pretty regularly. I would play high, I would go to school high, and cocaine and crack was my main go to. I hadn't experienced anything else other than that at that time. And at that time, my father was in the game pretty big. Buying, selling crack, cocaine, and I knew that. So there would be games I would go to in high school, and that same day, my dad may be on the front page of the newspaper running from the police, which is an actual true story. He ran from 22 cops in a helicopter. Um, so there was
Did he
there
get
was
away?
no, he didn't. He ran off in the ditch, and they busted him in the head with a mag light. So,
Oh,
yeah, it was pretty rough story. But actually, that night we had a game, and my coach came to me, and he's like, "Hey, listen, you about to walk out here. We're playing our cross county rivals." He's like, "You about to walk out here and see something that's gonna either make you play really hard, or you gonna run from it."
yeah.
And the whole student section, which there was about 4,000 people at our high school that night watching, the whole student section was dressed in orange and had my uh I had those newspapers up on my father
Hmm.
chanting convict. So, but that really inspired me, and I had a good game. But anyway, things like that happen along my life. At senior night, my senior year, the feds ran in and arrested him. Before the game, just a lot of different things that hardened me and hardened me and hardened me and hardened me. And my main reason to use is I wanted to find out. I literally remember thinking, man, I want to see what this substance is that tore my family apart.
Mhm.
You know, I want to see what this is all about. And I remember the first, every addict will tell you chase that first high. The first time I got high, I was like, no wonder.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder this tore my family apart, because this is amazing. And that was, of course, with cocaine. So, um, after that, you know, I signed a scholarship with a school out of high school, a college, Queen's University. And then my dad got in some trouble, went back to jail, and I ended up taking 3 years off. And there's a ton of stuff I could go into with different things that happened along the way that was just wild stories. But some of the things that happened during that time was I opened up a little business that was a hookah bar right near a college. So in my mind, I'm opening this business up to have a legit business, but in the back of my mind, I'm opening this business up because I know what I can get my hands on. So I have this hookah bar, but I'm also selling pills and cocaine out of it. Um, and we're doing a lot too. So it's just a total mess. I'm not playing ball. I'm now running a hookah bar, snorting cocaine, snorting pills every night. But that leads on to me, you know, having a guy come in one night, and introducing me to the rig, and you know that's a whole different ball game when you start shooting things. You know, as a lot of people know, it's a whole different aspect. So that led to me using the needle. Um, and we ride this train for 3 years, until I get a call one day from Coach Anderson. And he told me, he said, "Hey, you know, why aren't you playing ball anymore?" And I told him, I said, "I don't play. You know, I live the life I live." And he said, "Yeah, you know, a lot of people know the life you live, and if you're not careful, you're gonna be like your father." And that was something that hit hard, because at that time my father was living a very rough life, and one I didn't want to be a part of,
Mhm.
and I did not want to be that man. So he told me, he said, "Listen, if you don't want to be that man, you meet me at Starbucks at noon tomorrow, and let's talk about you getting back in basketball." So I met with him, went and played an open gym. He sends me to a JUCO in Illinois. During these times, there'll be, you know, a month or two at a time where I'm like, man, I want to be straight, go through the whole dope sickness, all this. I want to be straight, or, you know, I want to be clean. I want to do the right thing. But every time the enemy would send somebody in my path that opened up a door, and now I look back, those pathways are going to be open anytime. I mean,
Yeah.
you can find it, you can go
Yeah.
get it, you can do it anytime you want.
Acceptable any
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Especially when you know.
absolutely,
It's
bro.
like,
You know the game
yeah,
already. You know the
Absolutely.
procedure.
you know what to say, when to say it, how to
Absolutely,
say
bro.
it.
Yeah. And
I
where to
mean,
go?
Yeah.
absolutely. There's literally been times, bro, where I've seen somebody walking, looking different, and walk up to them like, "Hey, bro, I hear them in your pocket. You know, what's up? You want to sell some?" I mean, it's that bad. You can almost smell it.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets me back into basketball. I move up to Illinois. I'm hooping. I walk into a liquor store one night. I'll never forget. I walked in. I had ate a few perks. Again, I went from crack, cocaine, had done a little bit of heroin, and like, man, I just want to chill and just eat a few pills. So I ate a few pills. I walk in, hit the door, never forget. Old man behind the counter. He looked at me. He's like, "Hey, you walking a little different tonight." I said, "What you mean?" He's like, "Hey, you know what I mean." He's like, "You look a little different, walking a little happier tonight, ain't you?" I said, "Man," I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Well, listen, man, if you need any what you got, you let me know." And I said, "Man, you don't know what I do." He said, "Bro, I can see it in your eyes." He said,
No.
he said,
Yeah.
"You're eating them
No, bro.
pills." He said, "You're eating them
You know.
pills or you're on heroin." He's like, "Bro, you about nodding off trying to get a bottle." I said, "Well," I said, what can you get me?" He's like, "You just let me know how many you need." Long story short, this turns into me buying pills from a dude in Illinois, uh, where they're going for $1 a milligram in North Carolina. I'm buying them for 25, 30 cents a milligram. And cocaine, where you can get it down in North Carolina for 750 an ounce, is going for 120, 130 a gram in Illinois. So then that starts a whole nother cycle where you dang running 1,000 pills back and forth, running cocaine pills, staying up for days, being high, going and playing a game high in JUCO. And I mean, it wasn't just me involved. I had buddies, man, printing fake money. I had buddies got the doors kicked in because they were selling heroin. These are all dudes that I hooped with.
Yeah.
I mean, just a wild life. But so then you stay there 2 years, you live that life, and I got to sign on with a school here in Alabama, University of Montevallo. We had a great team. Same song and dance, not as bad. It wasn't no selling, no dope, anything. Well, a little bit around campus, nothing huge, but basically at that time, I'm just a whatever you got. It didn't matter what you got. I would do it to get high. So after graduating college, get a job, have back surgery, and then that's when it takes a downturn, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to pain clinics. You know, you're a functioning addict that looks, plays the part, has a decent job. You go into these pill mills, bro. Don't matter if you pee dirty, pee clean, they give you more pills. Before you know it, you're getting 360 a month, and you're taking 360 in 4 days,
Yeah,
5 days. I mean, so
that's you pacing yourself too.
yes, that's you that's you trying to draw them out a little bit, you know. And I tell people, you know, at my worst, I was 1,500 mgs of oxy a day, and people say
And that's crazy for people to
yeah,
understand.
bro, and that's what, you know.
Like you're lying, like
Yeah, I had a doctor sit there like, you would be dead. I was like, no, ma'am, you know, this is what I did. She's like, no, there's no way. No. I said, ma'am, listen, that's what I'm on. She said, sir. I said, ma'am, I'll tell you what. You go buy the dope, and I'll show you. Like, I'll show you that we can do that much right here. I said, matter of fact, we can get it at noon and have it done by about 12 a.m. if you really want to push hard.
Yeah.
I said, that's how big my tolerance is. You know, it had gotten to a point where if I didn't have, you know, 90 migs crushed up on the bed, just
You can't even get up.
can't even
You
move.
can't even get up.
And once you hit a line or you know, hit a shot, bro, you ready to go.
Yep.
But that coming down, we always say, you know, my buddies here today, we always say the going up ain't worth the coming down. Because when you coming down, bro, that dope sickness is the worst.
The worst, bro.
And anyway, long story short on that, I get on to pills bad, heroin bad, then the fentanyl. I'm sure everybody knows about the fentanyl. So I never messed with the actual fentanyl powder, but I got the fent presses. So I got introduced to the fent presses. I'm sure people listening to this know the blue M30s. And you get hooked up with guys that you're not getting 20 or 30, you're getting the master.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting some
heavyweight whey protein buckets full of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And literally,
they're not for physical.
No. They're it was
not
a
for working
whole
out.
different game. Yes. And that led to you know, you get dope sick, and then you learn how to make meth. So now we're off. Crack and cocaine is way back. We've done jump from that to pills to now we're on fent presses. So as everybody knows, oh, I'll just stick to this. Yeah, you'll stick to that till you find the next best thing. So then you taking meth to come off the dope sickness of the fent presses. Well, then you learn how to make meth, and that's probably one thing I can't speak a lot on because, you know, even to this day with just a lot of different people involved, but there was just ways that you made a lot of it, and you can make as little as you wanted, 3.2, or you can make 32 pounds. But you know, that's a whole different ball game. So meth was a drug that if I would have known about when I was 19, 18 playing ball, I'd have been dead.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't control myself then. I know if I had that, I mean, my heart would explode.
Yeah.
But you know, so long story short, I you know, I'm an addict. I'm a functioning addict. And you know, there was never a time I shot dope, did dope, and it was like, oh, you know, people are like, man, he's just a junkie. That's one thing. If I hear somebody say, I'm like, man, people don't wake up every day like, man, I want to ruin my life.
Oh, yeah.
I want to
talk about that all the time.
I want to be high.
Yeah, dude.
I want to. It's
it really is.
Once you start, there is no stopping.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stop if you don't want to be able to function for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm a sissy when it comes to being sick, and dope sickness is the flu times 100.
When I used to say, like, I literally could not do nothing for an entire week, I couldn't even get up out of the bed.
Absolutely.
You know, you were throwing up, messing your, like, everything. You literally cannot move.
Using the bathroom on yourself. I can't tell you how many times I use the bathroom on myself. And then when you're on, it's just the opposite. Not to be nasty, man. I mean, literally, I went over 3 weeks without going to the restroom. So people are like, man, that's not that big a deal. You try not going to the bathroom for 3 weeks. Right? And you have to go to the hospital and they run something up in you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's that bad, bro. So either way you go, it was a losing battle. And you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I was always thinking, man, I don't want to be doing this, but you had to keep up. 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 And so finally, you know, doing pills to go the Suboxone route. It gets me off of everything. I'm taking a heavy dose of Suboxone. Which don't get me wrong, Suboxone was a great drug for me at that time in my life. It was
a bridge.
It was a bridge. And I may make people mad. I will say this.
Make them mad.
For me, it was good for me at that time, but it was still something I would try to abuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if I could take 100 mgs of it, I mean, I remember eating 3 8 milligram strips at a time just to try to catch the nods.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't something that I needed to be on permanently, but it was better than being on
Blaming dope.
Absolutely,
Blaming
bro.
dope up on your arm.
Absolutely. So, you know, one day my mom invited me to church, and I'm like, Ma, these folks, they're not going to accept me at church. She was like, no, I want you to hear this dude talk. You know, he's had a life kind of like yours. And I'm like, man, you know, I'll go just because you're asking me. I was like, but he's not going to understand. So literally that day, I went to church, and this dude gets up on stage, and dude is just tatted. I'm like, man, what's going on here? And he gets up and he's like, yo, hey, what's up? And dude's got on J's and stuff. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, this dude's in church. He's like, hey, I'm Pastor Kenny. And I'm like, Pastor? And I'm sitting here looking. He's like, and here's my story. And this dude's talking about he's been shot. He's cooked meth. He's shot meth. He's ran up in dope houses. And I'm like, this dude's really talking about this in church.
Mm-hmm.
And what was cool is nobody was sitting there like, I'm like, and they let this dude be a pastor? And I'm like, so they ain't gonna look at me crazy here. So after church, I remember I walked up to him, I'm like, hey, bro, I need to talk to you. Like, man, like they let you be a pastor? He's like, well, yeah, bro, yeah. He's like, hey, man. He's like, hey, he gave me a hug. He's like, let's go catch some lunch. And I'm like, these folks are different. And a lot of people go to church and get that y'all are caught up in religion. That's just everything's gonna send you to hell. This is you're wrong. This and that, bro. The Lord I serve is a graceful and forgiving Lord. And thank God that He shows His love and shed His love on me. Because without that, I don't know where I would be. But long story short, I meet Kenny. He gets me in this men's group. So now I'm literally just out of doing dope. Suboxone, dope, a little bit of both, still a little bit of everything. Just pills and Suboxone, trying to let the Suboxone be my bridge, but not gonna lie, I'll go pick up a few hundred pills every now and then. I mean, just being truthful. And when I say a few hundred, people are like, oh my God, a few hundred would get me through 5 days, if that, 4 days.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, depending on the milligram. So, you know, with the Suboxone, it helped with dope sickness. So everybody that knows that, you take your drug test, you got 25 days, you can go run and get high. I mean, we all know that. But anyway, I start meeting these folks, and then I get invited to this men's group, and it was the very first one, and I'm sitting in there with feds. Well, what I didn't know was feds, and I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, and this dude's introduced himself like I work for this agency, and I'm like, man, there ain't no way. And then the next guy's like, hey, bro, I just got out, for selling dope, and I'm like, and then the feds was like, hey, man, good. And I'm like, man, what? These folks are different. Like, so I was confused and hemmed up and guarded, but I also seen the love that they have for each other, and then. Now that group is 60 dudes.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing what the Lord did in my life at that time for me. And I'm not preaching the Bible to anybody, but that's what the Lord did for me.
Yeah.
and it's led to me now meeting an amazing godly woman, being married, having a daughter, trying to have more kids, and I live my life now for the Lord first, and for my family, and for my brothers that I have. And these fellas, this is amazing what y'all are doing for my brothers at church, and that's what I live my life for. And there's a lot more to life for me now, a lot more happiness, a lot more freedom than there was on the other side. It's just the unconditional love that you can't find anywhere else. Once you get that clear head and that once you just get clean, I guess you could say. Um, but it's just a really good feeling. Really good feeling.
That's
I
awesome.
made it to the end. I was gonna try not to cry.
Yeah, man.
Cry, let it out,
No,
man.
dude, you got it,
Let it
man.
out, buddy.
Yeah.
Man, I love you, dude.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
y'all.
man.
Love y'all.
Man, you're
Thank
the
y'all.
man, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Thank y'all.
Hey, so why don't you tell us about this? You bought some cows and stuff.
So yeah,
No,
so yeah, no,
Talk
man, I
about
didn't want
this.
to talk. So
Talk about this, dude.
me and my wife, like we so I'm ADD to the max, and I was like, we were talking, and I said, listen, we gotta start, just having a spot where people can come to and just get loved on.
Yeah.
Like, no, we ain't trying to we just, hey, we are believers, but bro, we get mad, we cuss, we do human things. Like, people think you're a believer, like, oh my God, he's perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. We just all out here trying to do the best we can. But anyway, so we got this idea to have a cookout at our house. And when I say our house, we just live in a small home on less than an acre. Long story short, we probably have, I don't know, 65, 70 people at the very first one we ever had.
Yeah.
And what's cool is my buddy that's here today, he got to come. And we got to reach out to him, and we've got a brotherhood bond so far that's amazing. We got to reach out to another couple that's married, that was just fresh out. Um, they now have changed their life around, and I said, man, listen. I told my wife, and we both were in agreement, because we both don't think anything through, which is really good in some things, and other things we just are both scatterbrained. But it's cool because I love her and we're good. But anyway, I said, let's just find some land, and we'll have like Rock the South, but believer version is just have people, and before you know it, like, if we can get 1,000 folks to just show up and just see, hey man, just because they say they believe in Jesus means doesn't mean they're above anybody. They're just regular folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was so down on myself. I'm like, man, I can't find no land. Long story short, we found 44 acres out in Bluntsville, that we're just turning in. We're gonna call it Agape Ranch.
Yeah.
Agape meaning the highest form of love that the Lord has for us. I'm sure people's heard that. And we're just gonna do stuff for young folks. We're gonna have kid camps probably. We're gonna do stuff for women, for recovering addicts, current addicts. I just want to reach folks.
Yeah.
I mean, we just want to reach folks.
Yeah.
So we jumped into it, and then I decided, like, hey, instead of bush hogging all this, let's get some cows. So now we got 44 cows coming Thursday. So 22 mamas and 22 babies. So
That's awesome.
it's gonna be fun, man. Keep you busy.
Yeah.
Man. Well, that's awesome, dude. I know, man, you're an inspiration to me. I know you're an inspiration to a lot of these other people. And we're just glad that you took the time to really meet with us and sit down with us, man. I love you.
Hey, I love you too, bro. I love you, bro.
I love you so much.
bro.
I love you, man.
I love you, bro.
Thank y'all. We
Yeah.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Hey, if you want to, we'd love you to subscribe and watch more of this.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. We love y'all. All right.